This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by $5 milkshakes, Apple cigarettes, or long shots of women's feet. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this week we're doing something different. We are taking a step away from top 5 lists, which is a bit of a rarity with this show. You know I like to talk about everyone's favorite movies. But one thing I wanted to do since the inception of this show was talk about directors and really focus on entire bodies of work and have a deep dive. And now, after 60 plus episodes, I'm finally getting around to it. And this week, we're kicking it off with a cracker. We've got a great director to talk about and an equally fantastic guest. My guest this week has been on the show before, previously only with his podcasting partner, Bucky, from the Midnight Terror Show. Sorry, the Midnight Terrors Show. I should have a second take there. Please welcome from the good old US of A. We call him Jason, but he goes by Diamond. Welcome, Diamond, back to the show.
CC, well, thank you for having me, buddy. I've been looking forward to it. We have talked a little bit. You know, we did our kind of top 5 films a little while ago. What has that been, like 6 months?
Yeah, like it's longer than I thought it was. Like the last time you were on the show was episode 42, and this is going to be either episode 65 or 66. So it's been a good while.
But yeah, I'm excited to be back, and of course, we love having you on, our show.
I've done your
I
show
know that you like to kind of escape.
Yeah, I was going to say I've done your show a lot more than you guys have done my show, and that's not because I don't want you on my show. I just like not being the host. So.
Well, no, just we've had you on, and I know you like a little escape to talk about horror, which we were kind of talking about. And the last time that myself and Bucky were on your show, we had a good time just kind of doing top 5 favorite films, which was fun. And I like to step away. I love doing our horror conversations on Midnight Terrors, and as much fun as that is, I still I'm just such a big movie buff as you are as well. I still love the opportunity to kind of step out and talk about other things that are not specifically horror. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with you.
No, for sure, and it's a rare treat to get some one-on-one time with you because you guys are normally a package deal. So, and again, nothing against Bucky. I love talking to that guy as well. I was literally texting him before we went online this morning or this afternoon for you. But it's a bit of a rarity to get you solo. So I've been looking forward to it. I know what we're going to talk about today is a huge passion of yours as well. So it's always cool hearing you guys talk about things that aren't horror. Not that I don't like your show or horror either, because you guys have a fantastic podcast. But yeah,
we appreciate it.
Oh, a big fan, and you guys are always so lovely. You guys always shout me out, and even in your 50th episode, you guys gave me a nice little shout out, which made me very happy. And then I bragged to my wife. So you gave me some fodder. So you gave me some conversation fodder for the week, and I definitely used it. You guys have been doing some exciting stuff.
And so she was like, these two nerds from the US gave you a shout out and you're happy.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think the joke was, I said it on a show I recorded with you guys recently, although from what I understand, that show doesn't exist anymore, so we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, we have to re-record, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest. We were talking about The Devil's Rejects. There's no unfortunate. We get to talk about that movie a second time. Great. It'll be fine.
Yes, exactly.
But there was a joke. It wasn't a joke. A comment that Kev said. He was like, "Oh, we have to shout out James for a second. He's been on the show a few times. His episodes have been really some of the funniest episodes we've done." That was it. Some of the funniest episodes we've done. Very nice compliment. I paused my podcast right there. I ran into the other room. I said, "Hey, 2 guys in America just said I'm the funniest guy in the world," and I said that to her every day for a week. Not what you said, but I just took it and ran with it.
Well, good. I'm glad you got to enjoy that, and we always enjoy you. So,
Yeah, thank you. It's always an absolute treat to come on your show. Now, you guys have been doing some exciting stuff recently. You went to the SC HorrorCon in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. We just did our first work on, and it was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of cool people. I got to meet Tyler Main.
So cool.
Uh, yeah, which of course, Tyler Main plays Michael Myers in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, but he is also Sabretooth
Mm-hmm.
in the original X-Men film. He's also in Troy. He's like the big badass dude in Troy, that's like more massive than anybody on the battlefield. And no, he was really cool. We had a lot of fun with him. I got to meet Tiffany Shepis, who's done a lot of like trauma movies. She did like Victor Crowley, if anybody's familiar with like the Hatchet movies.
I am,
And
yeah, for
but
sure.
she's more recent. Yeah, but she's more recently in Star Trek Picard,
Oh, cool.
which I'm a big Star Trek fan. So I got to meet her, which was pretty exciting. So yeah, we had a lot of fun at the con, met a lot of cool people, and our listenership like went through the roof in like 2 days.
That's
So
awesome.
it was really fun. And then we have a live event that we're doing here in Charleston, South Carolina, on October 19th. So we're looking forward to that as well. So yeah, we're making some moves. We're making some money, making some moves, having some fun. So
Yeah, when you guys told me you were doing a live show, my jaw hit the floor. I was so excited because all I've ever wanted to do since I started my show was find a way to do a live format, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And I'm still building numbers. But when you guys said that you get to go into like a bar and there's going to be a food truck and you guys are going to do like audience participation, I was like, geez, that's a really cool way to do it.
yeah, and we really have to give a lot of credit to our buddy Mr. J. Which, if you listen to the show, Mr. J is one of our favorite guests that we have on. He's one of the earliest guests that we've had on. But he did a lot of horror trivia and does a lot of stuff at this local bar that we're going to. And so he just had like a bunch of like kind of connections. And we asked him, we were just like, hey, like we're thinking about doing like this live thing. Like, what do you think? And he was like, oh, I'm all over it, dude. Like,
Nice.
let's do it. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be doing like trivia, costume contest, like food truck, like yeah. So and recording, while we're doing all of that. So it'll be a lot of fun.
No, that's awesome. That's so cool. And Mr. J, if I remember correctly, is the guy he's a musician, and is he the one who always puts your name into the lyrics of his songs?
Yes, that would be him. um, and he also actually wrote our theme song for the podcast.
Oh, cool.
So
I always wondered that because I know that the art was done by Kev's mum. Awesome art, by the way. Like that's really, really cool. But I always love it when friends and family come together to make a show, kind of be more than it can be, which is awesome. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
it just Mr. J was one of like my earliest friends that I always talked like horror and stuff with. And when I told him the kind of idea for the show, or what we were shooting to do, I was like, hey man, and he's a musician, like he plays out all the time, and writes and produces his own stuff. And so I was just like, hey man, like we're doing this podcast and we're looking for kind of like a little intro music or kind of like a theme song or whatever. And I was like, can you give it a shot? Or and I just kind of gave him a general idea of what I was looking for. And he was like, yeah. And so he sent me like one kind of early cut, and I was like, yeah, I like it. Like, can we tweak this here and there? And he sent me a second cut of it, and I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. So he's a very cool guy, very big fan of the show, and just the sweetest dude ever. So
Yeah, no, his appearance is always very memorable. He's got I think he's got such a unique voice. He's very softly spoken, but like very sharp. Like some of the like I know like you guys were very nice and like James's episodes are very funny, but Mr. J's got a really wicked sense of humor. Like he's very quick with his wit. But he's just so on it. Like I'm very loud and brash and obnoxious when I'm on your show. He's very softly spoken and just throws in nice little jokes, and it always works very well for me. So
Well, and the funny part is that when he's on the show, he is very kind of like soft spoken and everything like that. But when you meet him in person, it's the exact opposite. He is so
okay.
loud, just crazy, and even he and his wife came out to the con, and he was walking by our table every like 5 seconds and just screaming at the top of his lungs, "Hey, look, it's the Midnight Terrors guys. We've got to go over there and see them." And it just, yeah, so it's funny that he kind of like plays down on the show,
Yeah.
but yeah, in life he is very over the top and very hilarious, but like one of the sweetest dudes on the planet. He's so awesome.
Oh, that's so funny. But it's nice to have a hype man in your corner, you know? Like that's what you want.
It
Someone who
is.
believes in the show as much as you guys do, which is very, very cool. Um,
It is.
so today we're talking about a director. And I remember this actually got suggested probably almost 6 months ago after we recorded that show where you and Kev came on for the first time. And Kevin was like, "Oh, Jason's a huge fan of blank director. You should talk to him about it." And I was like, "Yep, we'll definitely organize it." And then it took us 6 months because I didn't think I like we had no way of contacting each other because you didn't really use Instagram and you gave me a number, but I can't message ours.
Yeah,
And it took
yeah, of
until the
course. Well,
creation
and
of the Midnight Terrors Facebook group to be like, "Oh yeah, Facebook. Like we could have used that
oh
all this
yeah,
time."
yeah. I think both of us were just like, duh, we're idiots. We could have
Yeah.
been doing this
We're older guys,
forever.
you know, we don't really focus on Facebook. Like we're both now like kind of mid to late 30s. We're not thinking about that anymore. We're just thinking about
Right,
trying to
right.
stay alive. Uh, so we're talking about a director who I guess uh, his most common themes are, or you know, kind of common things in films are gratuitous violence, people being locked up in
Yes,
trunks, and long shots of women's feet. We are, of course, talking about Quentin Tarantino. Um, that's
absolutely.
you got to start. Like if you got to talk about directors, that's where you start, right? Like Quentin Tarantino. I've been a massive fan of him for going on 20 years. I think the first thing that really piqued my attention was the Pulp Fiction VHS cover in the video store when I was a kid. That and of course the trailer for Kill Bill. Like I don't know if anyone's seen remembers the first trailer for Kill Bill Volume One, but it's so unique and interesting and iconic. It just like stuck with me, and I just became obsessed with that trailer on its own. But where does your love for Tarantino begin?
Because I don't even remember how old I was when Pulp Fiction came out. But obviously I was too young to watch it at the time.
For sure.
Uh, but so a few years later, once I kind of had some age on me, I watched Pulp Fiction, and that was the first one that I saw. And having seen Pulp Fiction, the first time that I watched it, I kind of didn't know what to think about it.
Mm.
It was just, and I don't even know that I could say that when I watched it for the first time that I enjoyed it really.
Hmm.
I I was just kind of baffled by this thing that I just watched. I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, what's going on here? So it was a few years later down the road that I actually, watched it again when I was a little older and a little wiser. And watching Pulp Fiction for the second time, I it clicked with me. I was
Yep.
just like, man, this thing is genius. Like this
Mm.
guy is just, well, first of all, the director, and of course Tarantino writes all of his shit. I was like, the director and the writer is just out of his fucking mind. Uh,
Absolutely. Yes.
so like completely out of his fucking mind, but it's so brilliant at the same time. So that was, and I think a lot of recognition for Tarantino for a lot of people was Pulp Fiction for the first time. So
Definitely.
me seeing Pulp Fiction for the second time and realizing how great it was is where I kind of caught my love story with him.
Interesting. I was going to ask you what your first Tarantino film was, but you went ahead and kind of started with that, which is awesome. Um, I have this theory, but I think you're about to prove me wrong. I have this theory that every person's favorite Tarantino film ends up being the first one they saw. But my understanding is that Pulp Fiction is not your favorite. Is that right?
No, no.
See, theory.
So
After 10 years, this theory has been debunked.
um, now I still highly enjoy Pulp Fiction.
Mm.
And I highly enjoy all of Tarantino's films. But my favorite still to date is Django Unchained. And in
Oh,
fact, my dogs.
I'm so glad you said that because I knew what I was going to call the episode before we recorded. I had an idea what I was going to call it. And then when you said Django's your favorite, I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. Because I was going to call the episode Diamond Unchained. And now that I know it's your favorite, I'm definitely calling it that.
um, no, in fact, my dog's name is Django. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So Django ended up, after all the years of of all the films. I mean, I went back after Pulp Fiction, and of course I watched Reservoir Dogs.
Hmm.
And Reservoir Dogs, is fantastic, and of course, Kill Bill
Yes.
volumes 1 and 2 are great. Um, I mean, the only one, and we can talk about it. The only one that I didn't really kind of gel with was Jackie Brown.
Okay. Interesting. I rewatched Jackie Brown. I did all of Tarantino films earlier this year because I hadn't seen all of his films in a long time. And I loved Jackie Brown the first time I watched it. And I will say, going back now, it's still very much a Tarantino film, but it's very different for his work. There's a lot more. It's a lot slower paced. There's no kind of cutting around, with his time continuity. It's very kind of straightforward, and it probably lacks some of the excitement you get from a Tarantino film. It's still great, but it's just the least Tarantino film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the
Uh,
least Tarantino of the Tarantino films. Yeah, yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and
um,
I've gone back and in years recent, after of course loving every Tarantino, like going back, I was like, okay, I need to watch Jackie Brown again
mm,
just to make sure that I'm just not off my rocker or like I just wasn't getting it. And I went back and watched Jackie Brown, and Jackie Brown it's still good, but it's just not. I don't know. It's I don't know what it is that doesn't sink in with me, but it's just probably the one that it didn't really sit with me or didn't really have an impact for me.
well, I guess it's not a Tarantino story. I think he did end up writing the scripts, but it's based on the James Elroy book, so it's not an original Tarantino idea. That might be. I think that's probably a big part of it.
Okay, so maybe yes. Okay, so maybe that's what. Yeah.
I think that's because it was his, it's his chance to kind of do a Pam Grier kind of blaxploitation film from the '70s, like with Pam
Sure.
Grier, yeah. So, but instead of kind of doing his own thing, he kind of went with the book, which I don't think is a bad choice. And I always think it's interesting when directors do try something different because he had these two massive hits, like Reservoir Dogs, um, which got talked about a lot in my film class when I studied film because they're like, it's a heist movie where you never see the heist, and that was considered interesting when you're 16 years old studying film. Um, so like the Reservoir Dogs had a huge impact, and then obviously Pulp Fiction just showed you could just do basically an action film that's driven by dialogue with almost no action in it and make it work. So I think Jackie Brown was just not what people were expecting his next movie to be. Um, but it's interesting because Jackie Brown happens, and it's probably got the least amount of response from the audience, and then 7 years go by, and then he comes back with Kill Bill, which arguably I would say really influences his style moving forward. Because after Kill Bill, like that's to me the first real Tarantino film. Like you see Reservoir Dogs, you see Pulp Fiction, kind of him doing the dialogue thing, but then Kill Bill is like visually, stylistically, that's when Tarantino loses his mind. I think just goes crazy.
Well, yeah, and I mean, kind of before we get a little too far.
I know I'm jumping ahead.
No, it's okay because I'm all about bouncing around. It's fine.
I'm having this conversation Tarantino style, out of order. Just jump.
Yeah, there you go. So that's actually something I was about to touch on. No, but so going back after watching, some of his films, going back and watching Reservoir Dogs, one of the genius things about Reservoir Dogs is that it all happens. 90% of it is one room.
Yeah.
Like they're just in that warehouse, and all of this drama and everything happens. I mean, you've got some scenes in the car, and you got the scene at the diner and everything. But I mean, the majority of the film is just in that one room. And when I went back and kind of looked at that and realized kind of how genius it was,
Yeah.
because now it was definitely done out of necessity. I mean, it was like, I don't have this huge budget, and I can't be, going to 20 different locations and doing all these crazy action sequences and stuff like that. He just didn't have the budget for it. But I mean, how great is that movie? And it's only in one room. And
No,
dude,
absolutely.
Michael Madsen cutting the guy's ear off.
Yeah.
It's still so iconic. Like listening to "Stuck in the Middle with You" and just torturing the shit out of that poor guy, and just having a good time with it. I mean, he is enjoying every second of it,
Yeah.
and it's yeah. I mean that Reservoir Dogs still sits very um, still sits very hard with me because it's so minimalistic, but still so effective.
No, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point, because you mentioned "Stuck in the Middle with You." Like, if we talk about time jumping and dialogue and stuff, when we talk about Tarantino, you can't talk about him and not discuss music as well. Like, with the exception of Hateful Eight, which doesn't really use it just uses all score from Ennio Morricone. Like, every movie is so constructed around the soundtrack that he's handpicked himself. Like, I remember listening to an interview with him talking about Kill Bill, and there's that scene in Kill Bill with the 5, 6, 7, 8s where they're playing that kind of Japanese surf rock music.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was on my way out of Japan. I went to a record store and they were playing a record, and I heard this song, and I was like, "Who's this band?" And like, "Oh, it's the 5, 6, 7, 8s." He goes, "Can I buy the record?" And like, "Oh, we only have the one CD. It's the shop copy." And Quentin Tarantino was like, "No, you understand. I'm leaving Japan now. I need this CD. Can I buy the store copy? Call your manager. I need to buy it."
Right.
But the music choices are so unusual. And I think, Reservoir Dogs in particular, like, once I saw that scene, I was like, oh, what a great idea to take a really pleasant piece of music that you don't associate with any kind of negativity at all and put it against the stark contrast of the most visually horrible thing you can think of. Like, that's so
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Well, like cutting his ear off and then throwing the gasoline on him,
Yeah.
which, God, I mean, an open wound with gasoline in it, I I can't even imagine how that fucking
Yeah.
feels. But yeah, I mean, well, and his music choices too. If you listen to the soundtrack for Django, like
Yes.
there's so much of this Western, like kind of country like soundtrack to it. But then at certain times you've got Black Coffins, and then at the end he goes in to take out the family or whatever.
With the James Brown
And they
track, the Payback?
no, it's Tupac.
Yeah, it's a Tupac James Brown like mashup. It's got the really
Yeah,
funky, the really
exactly.
funky. Is it wrong if I want to get it on
Yeah,
till I die? That one, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's just such a crazy, like, because the movie up until that point has all this spaghetti western kind of, just sound to it. And then, when Django comes to get his revenge, kick on the Tupac and James Brown. Like,
Oh, I am
it's so
not.
crazy. It's
I am.
it's so good.
I'm not too proud to admit that after that movie came out, I drove around with my windows down with that song on repeat. Like, it was the ultimate driving
Oh
song.
yeah,
Like, it was the closest to a badass I could ever feel, just with that track on. Uh,
yeah, oh yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, so definitely going, and I agree with you. I think after Pulp Fiction, there was Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown was just kind of, nobody knew kind of really how to take it, or maybe it wasn't his best success or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Kill Bill, because like I grew up with my dad. Like, my dad and I would watch movies all the time together, and we loved, kind of standard stuff. Like, we loved Star Wars, we loved Indiana Jones, that kind of thing. But also, we would get up on, like, Saturday mornings, and there would be these, like, cheesy, like, kung fu films on.
Mm.
And so when Kill Bill came out, that mashup, especially with Kill Bill Volume 2, that mashup of the kind of current cinematic glory, but also this, like, 60s, 70s, kind of Bruce Lee style, old kind of exploitation, kung fu films. Like, it was just crazy interesting to me.
Mm. Well, yeah, Kill Bill is definitely one that piqued my interest. It was my first Tarantino film, and it still is my favorite. I always put both two together because it is one movie. He just released it
Yeah.
separately because it was so long. Um, but that was the first one that I was really like. It was. I think it was the first time I realized I was into movies. So I knew that I liked movies. I liked going to the video store, but I had this burning passion. Like, when the trailer came out, I was talking about it at the start. I was like, I had this burning desire to go and see it. I could not stop thinking about that trailer. Just the battle without honor or humanity. That guitar riff and like the trumpets and like everything, all the music in the trailer, and just like some of the cheesy lines, like, was it Sweet Caucasian Girl likes to play with samurai swords? Like, just little bits. I was like, what is this movie? I was like, what is this? I have no idea what this is, and it took me a while to get to it. I remember I eventually swiped a copy from the video store I worked at, because I was underage, but I was like, I need to see Kill Bill. Because it was R over here, and our R is a little bit stronger. You have
Yeah.
to be 18 or older in Australia to see an R film. Part two was MA, which means you can be 15. So it's like, this is really frustrating that I'm legally allowed to see the sequel, but not the first one. So I ended up swiping a copy and watching it. I think I watched it like 4 times that week. It was just incredible, and
Yeah.
nothing like I'd seen before. And just like the color palette and the idea to use animation, and the idea to, and like, what would become a bit of a trend later on with Inglorious Bastards, the idea to have the film not just in English the entire time, like all these weird little decisions, nothing I'd seen before. Like, there were 3 movies that really changed my life. The first one was Clerks, the second one was Desperado, and the third one was Kill Bill. And this flick is just, it's insane. Like, Kill Bill is
Well,
insane.
it's funny that you say that. Like, that little list that you just gave,
Mm.
are like 3 of my life changers too. I
Yeah.
mean, the first time I saw Clerks, I mean, that blew my mind. Like, I had never seen something like it before. I had never seen something that made me laugh like that before.
Mm.
And I had never just seen something so different like that before. And then when you jump to Desperado, same thing, which,
Mm.
our good buddy Robert Rodriguez, who we can not really talk about Tarantino without mentioning him.
I was gonna say, long
Um,
time Tarantino collaborator is Robert Rodriguez for sure.
yeah. So yeah, the first time I saw Desperado, I mean, and that was my first introduction to Selma Hayek, who is a, oh God, beast of a woman. Uh,
Anyone who's seen From Dusk
but
Till Dawn can attest to that. Or
well,
Dogma.
and there you go. I mean, you got Tarantino writing on From Dusk Till Dawn.
Mm.
And working with Rodriguez on that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Desperado was a big one for me, and then yeah, Kill Bill.
Mm.
And then I still remember, like, because everyone, as we're talking about Tarantino's, kind of filmography, everyone forgets about Death Proof.
I love Death Proof.
I love Death Proof too.
I didn't
So
get it the first time. I got 90% of it. The ending, I was like, what is this? Why did it end that way? But now, like, I've watched that movie at least a dozen times. That ending is exactly the way that movie should end. It's so good.
that same thing happened to me. So I actually went with my wife at the time, Bucky's sister. So we went and saw the Grindhouse double feature,
Ah,
because when it was, I don't know if they did the same thing in Australia, but in the U.S., like, you went to see it in the theater, and it was presented as an old school Grindhouse film. So basically, you got Planet Terror, and then after Planet Terror, you got Death Proof, which Planet Terror was Rodriguez's zombie movie,
mm,
and
which
then
is great.
afterward, you got, yep, which is great. And then they had like a little intermission, and then you came back and you got Death Proof,
We um
and
we did not get the Grindhouse treatment in Australia. In fact, we did not get a wide theatrical release for either of those movies. Independent movie houses got them, but like the big cinemas did not get them. And I was like, it's the new Quentin Tarantino film. What are you talking about? He's the biggest director in the world right now. Why is this movie not coming in
yeah,
theaters? And I could be remembering it wrong. Like maybe they did do some screenings of Death Proof, but I remember it being impossible for me to find it. And granted, I didn't have the resources I had now. I was pretty fresh. I was pretty green with my movie loving, so I was only going to the
sure.
cinema around the corner. But I remember just like scouring and could not find it anywhere. And you know what? I was at uni at that point. I was at university, so I did have a car. I did have the means. I just couldn't find it. It was just independent theater houses. So, um,
Well, and even in the U.S., like after it left the theater, which it didn't have that long of a theater run. It might have been maybe 3 to 4 weeks. It wasn't very long at all.
it's a
But
3 hour
when
movie with fake trailers and like
oh, and
three.
God, the fake trailers,
Well,
so
now
good.
Eli Roth is doing Thanksgiving based on that trailer from
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and then we got the Danny Trejo,
Machete.
yeah, Machete 1 and 2, which were both fantastic.
That
Um,
first one where I remember I was like, I know that I'm a fan of this stuff. The moment in Machete where he runs out through the hospital, he jumps out a window and swings off someone's intestines. I was like, all
yes,
right, this is the genre for me.
this is my thing. Yep, yep. Nope. I was gonna say that's one of my favorite scenes from it. Um, but but yeah, I mean, just and even when it came out, like, so I remember watching, the first half, of course, Planet Terror, and I thought Planet Terror was brilliant. I loved
Mm,
it. And then watching Death Proof afterwards, because it was the second one. I remember watching it, and I was just kind of a little confused by it, and just like I just didn't know what to think about it. And then later it came out, when it came out on, DVD release or whatever. You couldn't get like the pair together. It was, they separated them, so you could either
yeah.
buy Death Proof or Planet Terror. But I watched Death Proof again, and I was like, wow, I missed the whole point the first time. Like, this movie is fan fucking tastic.
Yeah. Well, I remember when it came out, because I bought them both the same day. And this was like when DVDs were expensive. I think I paid $30 for each DVD, so $60 on two DVDs because I was like, I need to watch them, and they were the extended cuts because the way that those films are designed is they're missing stuff, which I really like. Is because it's meant to be like an old grindhouse film. There's scratches,
Exactly.
on the film. There's reels missing, but the extended cuts fill in a lot of the blanks. So like, Rodriguez actually did shoot the entire film pretty much, and then just cut things out. Whereas Tarantino, I think, deliberately didn't write scenes so that it would be a bit confusing. But you can only get the 2 hour cuts. And I was looking at actually online last night because I did some Blu-ray ordering. We're finally getting the Grindhouse double feature on Blu-ray this year in Australia for what I think is the first time. I ordered mine from
Nice.
Canada 15 years ago because I couldn't wait. I was like, I need to see this double feature. So Canada did a region-free version. I was like, great, I'll order that in, and it's a really good time at the movies. Like, it's not for everyone, but if you like silly, violent, gory films, like, it's a lot of fun.
Well, which especially with us doing our show, Midnight Terrors, we like all different versions of like horror. So we love horror comedy. So watching Planet Terror especially
Mm-hmm.
it was just like amazing. I was just like, oh, this is the funniest, craziest, weirdest, grossest thing ever.
It had the
So I
single,
loved it.
I think it has the single greatest movie poster of all time. It's just Rose McGowan standing there, and instead of two legs, one is a machine gun. She's wearing hot pants, and it's shot in a silhouette. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so simple and so ridiculous, but like, yeah, you don't need to like. We've talked about our superhero films off mic plenty of times. Like, I love the Marvel films, the DC films, but the posters tend to leave a lot to be desired. Like, is a lot of
Right.
just CGI face, like kind of like Photoshop faces in a crowd or whatever. That Planet Terror poster, so simple, so wonderful. It's a girl with a machine gun for a leg. Go.
Yep. And that's all you need to know.
Yeah. We did
Don't
skip
mind how she
over.
pulls.
Oh, sorry.
Don't mind how she pulls the trigger.
Yeah, there is that. Or like how she can, use a rocket launcher to like launch herself over a wall, but it doesn't hurt her. Like,
Right.
um, we did
But
jump
that's the
over.
perfect part.
We did jump over a Rodriguez Tarantino collaboration, and that is, of course, Sin City. It was a Rodriguez film, but
Oh
Tarantino
yes.
did come in and shoot a sequence or two. It was his first time using digital. I remember it was a big deal because Tarantino's been like a staunch anti-digital filmmaker up until I think even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is still on film stock. I think if I remember correctly, he won't go near
Yeah,
digital.
I do believe you're right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Hateful Eight definitely
Yeah.
was film stock because he used like the Panavision, like the 70 millimeter wide. That was a big part of his promotion of that movie. So.
Yeah, Tarantino tends to steer away, or I don't know that he's ever used digital. I think he always films on actual film.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, Sin City, man, I remember seeing that thing too. That one blew my freaking mind, and I wasn't aware of the graphic novel
Mm.
when the movie came out. So I went into the movie cold, not kind of really knowing what I was getting into. But seeing the cast list, Clive Owen, Elijah Wood, Mickey Rourke, Jessica Alba.
Bruce
I mean,
Willis, like Michael Madsen, like.
yeah, like everybody and their fucking mom was in that movie, and that
Mm.
movie is still one of my favorites. I love that movie so
That one needs
much,
to actually
and
get added. That needs to get added to my list. I mentioned Desperado, Kill Bill, and Close before, but Sin City also really changed how I looked at films. That was the first movie I ever saw by myself. I could not convince anyone to go and see that movie with me. Like, none of my friends were interested because I was becoming the film guy. And like, we don't know.
right,
Like, James into some pretty weird stuff now. I'm like, no, it's going to be great. I can tell. And no one wanted to see it. I remember I said to my mum one night because it was coming to the end of its run. I was like, look, I really want to see Sin City. I know my brother and sister are underage, so you could look after them. Can I just go to the movies by myself? Is that cool? And she's like, yeah, I'll drop you off. I was like, sweet. Why didn't I ever think of this before? The first time I went to the theater, to the movie cinema by myself, the theater was empty, and it was like a biblical experience for me. I was like, holy Christ, this is cinema. And I'm sure most
yeah.
people don't think of Sin City as cinema, but it was for me.
Well, one of the coolest things for me, like I just thought it was insanely interesting, and it just looked cool all
Yeah.
around. And the choices just to be in black and white for certain segments, and then just throw in a splash of color on specific things. Like, I thought it was really cool. And then after seeing the movie and loving it so much, I was like, okay, well, I've got to go pick up this graphic novel. So I
Yeah.
went and picked up the graphic novel, and as I'm looking through the graphic novel, I'm like, man, like, this movie is literally shot for shot. I mean, like, you're looking at the pages of
Mm.
this novel, and I mean, it's exactly what the movie looks like. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was so cool, that because uh as you know, a big part of filming a movie is storyboarding and setting up the shots and everything. And it was just like they didn't have to storyboard shit.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
they
Rodriguez
were
even
just
said, he goes, we didn't storyboard it. Like Frank Miller did the storyboards for us 20 years ago, so we'll just use the graphic novel. And I think they literally
yeah,
just pulled the pages out and used that as their storyboard. And you can tell, like, there's that shot where I think it's Clive Owen falls into the tar pit, and you just see the hand
yeah,
come in to pick him up. It's like that is literally an image from the comic book. Like, it
yeah.
is the most comic accurate adaptation of all time. Like, it's literally, you couldn't
Oh
get
yeah,
more
I would.
accurate.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
And I liked the sequel as well. I know we're not really talking about Rodriguez, but I liked Sin City 2. Like, there are 7 graphic novels, and I know he condensed a few of them into the first movie. There's so much more storytelling to do with that. He could definitely do more Sin City if he wanted to. I don't
yeah.
know why I didn't. Yeah, go on.
I need to go back and watch A Dame to Kill, because I've seen it maybe once or twice, and of course it didn't have the same kind of wow factor as the
Mm,
first one because the first one was so unique at the time. So seeing the second one, especially because it was so many years behind the first one,
yeah.
that there were some other kind of copies because didn't they do the Spirit in between there?
So Frank Miller, after doing Sin City, was like, "Oh, I would like to direct a movie," and he did The Spirit. I think he directed it as well. I haven't seen The Spirit. I think I've seen maybe 10 minutes of it. It was not received very well.
No, and I'd tell you to stay away, to be
Mm.
honest.
But
Now I
then,
haven't watched it in a long time,
but
but
then Snyder did 300, which is another Frank Miller adaptation, and that's also an
yep,
excellent film. Like, it's not. I don't think it's the stories. I think it's just how it was approached. And yeah, like, Frank Miller's not a movie director. Like, he'd never directed a film. He got a co-director credit on Sin City because Rodriguez refused to take Frank Miller's name off it. But the guy's
right,
never really worked as a, like, he's got no experience as a film director. Of course, The Spirit didn't work. Like, um,
yeah, yeah, and you can tell it just doesn't have the same kind of like touch to it.
I'd still have to check it out. I've never seen it. I'd still give it a go because I'm a completionist. And as I've said time and time again on the show, there are no bad movies. But from what I understand, The Spirit is pretty tough.
Yeah, it's a little rough. But no, yeah. So Sin City, you're right. I always forget about that being in kind of uh, the repertoire, and then I also love we've mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn. You know,
Yes.
Tarantino wrote that one, and Rodriguez directed it, and uh, Tarantino. Even as much as I am not the biggest fan of him putting himself into certain movies.
I was going to ask
Uh,
about this. Okay, good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think from Dusk Till Dawn worked
Yes.
for the character that he played and the way that it was written. I think that he wrote that character kind of for himself.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that that's the reason that he worked in that character. Now there's other things. So like in Pulp Fiction, the Bonnie situation, where,
Jimmy.
yeah, I think he did well there. And
I
I
like
think
him in Reservoir Dogs as well. I like him in. I like that performance as
yeah,
well. I think the one that people always think about is Django. That's the one I think people find is the most.
yeah, that's the worst one. Yeah,
I don't mind
especially
it.
you being especially you being an Aussie.
I wasn't offended because I know people are like, "Oh, that's so offensive." I'm like, first of all, I think it's really hard to offend an Australian. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of uptight Australians, but we're pretty chill, most of us, and I think we can all take a joke. I was like, he's just doing a weird voice. Like, it didn't bother me at all. But I know that's the one that
Right.
people dislike the most, I think. And the Death Proof one, I always forget he plays Warren in Death Proof. I'm like, oh yeah, Quentin's in this one. Um, and
Yeah.
he's also the guy with the drippy balls in Planet Terror.
Yeah. Yeah. But
No,
yeah. So
Dust Till Dawn's great.
I
I
mean, he
love Dust Till
throws
Dawn.
in. Yeah, I love From Dusk Till Dawn too. And actually, Bucky, we've done an episode on the show, and he had never seen it,
Oh,
and
I
so
didn't
I
know
was
you
like,
guys done
dude,
that. I'm gonna listen to your episode now. It's
yeah,
gotta go back.
yeah. so he had never seen From Dusk Till Dawn, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Mm.
Like, so he came over to the house one night. We watched it together, and by the time he was done with it, and which Bucky hasn't watched much Tarantino at all.
Not
If
well, none from what I understand. He's like, I've got to go back and watch it from the start. I was like, don't do that. No, he wants to watch them in reverse. He
Yeah,
wants to watch them in reverse order. He's like, I'll start with the newest one and go back. And you and I were both like, don't do that. That's a terrible idea, Bucky.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. We did
don't do
have
that.
that conversation. I was like, "Do not start with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I was
Go back."
like, yeah, I would. My recommendation with Tarantino is like, just look at the posters and see which one jumps out at you and go with there. You can't go wrong. Like, there's no bad movie to start with because your first one was Pulp Fiction. My first one was Kill Bill. We both love all of his movies. I knew a guy whose first one was Hateful Eight, and that was his favorite movie, and that's why the theory
Oh, dude, Hateful
generates.
Eight is fucking fantastic too.
Great, but like so late in the filmography. But then he went back and watched everything and loved it as well. Like I don't think there's a bad place to start, but I wouldn't start with Want to Play. I wouldn't start with Once Upon in Hollywood, and I probably wouldn't start with Jackie Brown either. Not that they're bad films;
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
just they're not the most definitive of his work for sure.
exactly. And yeah, that's what I tried to tell Bucky. I was like, listen, man, like if you want to get into his work, like either go Pulp Fiction or go like Kill Bill, so that you get what he's doing or get the exciting side of it, or uh, get a taste for what he's doing,
Mm,
and then go explore elsewhere.
mm.
But these are kind of, if you want to get into his work, these are good ones to kind of start out with. But yeah, when he watched From Dusk Till Dawn, I mean, he came out of it. He was just like, "Man, this movie's fucking awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I told you."
That movie opens up such a can of worms because you can start going down the Tarantino wormhole and check out all of his stuff, but you can also go down the Rodriguez path. And Rodriguez has made so many movies, and they're all so unique.
Exactly.
Like his, kind of mariachi trilogy is brilliant. Like even Once Upon a Time in Mexico, like it's not the best of the trilogy, but it's still really good. Like I don't know about you, man, but I was a kid when those Spy Kids films came out. Those first three Spy Kids films are great. Like they're really fun.
Yeah, they are. And for the longest time, I forgot that he did those.
I love my
But
favorite thing is that Uncle Machete in Spy Kids is the same Machete in the Machete movies. I'm like,
yeah,
what a
yeah,
great what a bizarre Easter egg that you wouldn't see in any other like film series. It's like, oh, that guy who swung on someone's intestines? He's their uncle. Like,
yeah. But but no, so like I mean, Reservoir Dogs is great, So getting a little deeper, I mean, like when I got into like Kill Bill, like again, I was saying that me and my dad loved these like kung fu films, and again we talked about his soundtracking, like just it was just so crazy, and like some of the stuff that's genius about Kill Bill, especially Volume 2,
mm,
like one of my favorite fight scenes in film history is the two of them in the trailer
yes,
with the samurai swords, and just the genius of the fact that they're trying to pull the swords out in the
yeah,
hallway, and they can't get the swords out because the hallway is not big enough for them to
yeah,
actually like unsheath their swords. And like just that kind of thinking,
yeah,
like I mean, who thinks about that shit? Like,
for
okay, I
sure.
want to have a samurai sword fight in a fucking single wide trailer. And the problem that they're going to have is they can't get their swords out because the trailer's not wide enough. Like,
Or even
it's
the
just,
decision to have her break off the TV antenna, and that's her sword.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even in the first Kill Bill, after she fights for Nita,
Mm,
at the very beginning, and her daughter, walks in and sees her Beatrix kill her mother. She looks to the daughter and she's like, "You know what? Like in a couple of years, you're probably going to be sour about this, and if you are, I'll be waiting on you." and I'm just like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, like because she's the hero of this film, but like she's not nice. Do you know what I mean? Like you
No,
try,
not at
like
all.
you try to like I was 16 or 17 when I watched. I was trying to rationalize. I'm like, no, she's a hero, but like she is not, and she is like rightfully so sour. Like the thing about Kill Bill, and I don't like to use this word on the podcast too often, but Kill Bill is like a rape revenge film. Like first she gets like they
Yeah.
try to beat her up, and then like she is abused while she's in that coma. Like that is a tough story to sell to a mainstream audience, and it's so well executed and so entertaining. I forget about all the horrible stuff in it. Um, because I like yeah, I'll watch it like regularly with my wife. It was the first R-rated film I showed my sister when she turned 18. I was like, "You got to watch Kill Bill." I completely forgot about all that horrible stuff because it's just so entertaining and well done. Um, that you kind of forget that there's a really like nasty core to that movie.
Yeah, I mean, Tarantino has a habit of doing that, like
Mm,
just uh, making things so rough, but
mm.
it's got a point to it,
Well,
you
like I'm
know.
sure we'll
So
get
like,
to it, but I always think about the dog scene in Django. The first time I saw
yeah,
that,
I
that
was.
was
That's exactly where I was gonna go.
one of the like I've watched a lot of nasty films, as I'm sure you have. Like being a horror fans, we kind of, especially when you're younger, you push yourself to the extreme. You're like, yeah, I'll watch those Human Centipede films. How bad could it be?
Sure.
Uh, you'll watch nasty stuff. But even that scene in Django, like that had me kind of in silence. I was just like I was just like, oh my god, like what? This is so intense. Yeah, he doesn't shy away from the nasty stuff. He just happens to do it in such a stylish way. You forget about how horrible the things are, in his movies.
Yeah, and I mean, it was funny too, because when the first John Wick came out,
Mm,
I was telling Bucky's sister, I was like, listen, you got to watch John Wick. It's fucking cool. She loves Keanu Reeves. I was
hmm.
like, you got to watch this shit. Like, it's amazing. And she is sitting there watching it, and of course, you know, his dog gets killed, and I have a problem too. I don't like seeing animals get hurt whatsoever.
Yeah,
So that is always a little rough on me. I can take you beating up humans or whatever, but if you're hurting an animal, I'm not cool with it. So we're watching the movie, and she's like, dude, why are you showing this to me? And I'm
mm,
like, well, just wait,
yeah.
because as mad as you are now, when you see what he's about to do, you're gonna be so happy.
I remember
um,
putting that movie off for a long time because my wife's the same. She's big on like we're both big animal lovers. We've got a couple of dogs,
yeah,
and always big animal lovers. And I remember being nervous. I was like, I'm going to watch it first, and I'll let you know whether you should watch it. And I remember I watched it. I remember thinking, you know what? This is a weird phrase, but it was done quite tastefully. Like if you're going to kill an animal on screen, like they did it in a
sure.
way where they don't show too much. It's not too confronting. It's enough to kind of get the heartbeat racing and to kind of like trigger that emotion, but not enough to kind of upset you and like gross you out and give you nightmares and stuff like that. They just did enough to get the point across, and then Keanu goes full wick after that. Becomes a very
Yeah,
entertaining flick.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and so
that's
it
a
was.
tough one. Like it's really like, what's your movie? Well, a guy gets his puppy, not even dog, his puppy is murdered, and then he goes on revenge. It's like, oof, do you want to write something nicer?
Well, and it was funny because you know, Kevin's sister, like she loved Kill Bill so much. She was a big
Mm,
fan. And I was like, you can watch all of this stuff happen to Beatrix,
mm,
but and you're cool with it. Or not necessarily cool with it, but you can handle that, but you can't handle the puppy.
yeah,
But you know, I kind of agree. But yeah, but Tarantino has a way of just taking these like these terrible things and then like kind of justifying them, I guess you could
yeah.
say.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump to what I would say is maybe his best film, and definitely a contender for one of my top favorites as well. Inglorious Bastards. That's
I
his
love
next one up.
Inglorious Bastards.
So good. A film that I did not like the first time I saw it because I came out of it and I was like, I thought it was a World War II film. All they did was talk about movies. I'd missed the point yet again. Um,
Yeah.
that flick,
Well,
like the
and
idea that it's
again, so that one's, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
you're fine.
like
Go.
Inglorious Bastards is one of those that is very dialogue heavy,
Yeah.
and if you're kind of not prepared for that, like if you don't know what you're walking into, it can kind of seem a little boring because of all the dialogue.
Well, the
But
first 15, 20
then,
minutes is primarily in French and German. There's almost no English at all.
right,
Mm.
but then once you kind of like that, for me, the first time I saw Inglorious Bastards, I was just like, man, they're just gonna sit around and talk all day.
I would say that milk scene is intense. Like it's really,
Yeah,
even though I didn't get the film the first time, I could agree. Like that first 15 minutes was so intense. Just like talking about the milk, the Jewish people hiding under the floorboards. Oh my god,
right.
they do.
And so once I got over the kind of like, I guess, the shock of that, like I went back and watched it again, like knowing what I was going into, and knowing what I was going into, and rewatching it, I was just like, man, this movie's fucking brilliant. Like
Yeah,
it's amazing. So it's kind of one of those that you had to kind of warm up to a little bit.
there's so much in it. Like because you got three stories. You got the story of the bastards, but they're really such a small part of the overall story. Like I thought it was just going to be like Eli Roth hitting people with baseball bats for 2 hours, which I would have been
Right.
totally fine with. And that scene, by the way, like I know people have a thing about Eli Roth. They think he's a bit, obnoxious and stuff like that. But that character is so good, and that performance is so fun.
What do they call him again?
The Bear Jew.
The Bear Jew. Yeah, that's right.
But there's such a small part of it because then you've got the whole um, French cinema side of things with Shoshana, played by Melanie Laurent, who is
Yeah.
stunning, maybe the most beautiful actress in the world. Like whenever she's on screen, I'm just like, you can't give me a pause if I'm like, no, Shoshana's on. Let's just get to the
Oh
Shoshana
yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
Then I'll talk to you. And then you've got the Christoph Waltz scene. Like that was his, I believe, his kind of American movie debut. He'd never done an English speaking role before that film. And what a
Right.
performance to start with.
Well, and to start with that, and then transition into Django, like God, I mean, not to jump ahead of Django, but I mean, just his performance, and did what he nominated for Inglorious Bastards? Didn't he get
He
nominated for Best Actor?
he was nominated for Hans Landa, but he won for King Schultz. And I remember being like, that seems backwards because whilst his role
Yeah.
as Schultz is great, like Hans Landa is like that is a true villain. And I remember after seeing that when I went to Django, I was suspicious of him the entire time. I was like, I've seen
Oh,
he was so good as a villain in another movie. I wasn't convinced he was a good guy until the very end. I was like, I guess he was good.
gotcha. Yeah. It makes sense. But yeah, Inglorious, like, and I need to go back and rewatch it again. It's been a few years since I've seen it. But like I said, like after I kind of figured out what was going on, or kind of what the feel was and everything, having watched it the second time, like I just appreciate it so much more for what it is. It's just so good, and that's one of the things that like I love about Tarantino. I mean, like some of I mean, just his dialogue. It's just
Yeah.
so good. I mean,
Mm.
just just from Reservoir Dogs, with him talking about leaving a tip.
Yeah.
Like it's just this such a like remedial or like nonchalant thing, but
It's
it's
just
like
so natural. It's like that would be a conversation that you would have with people, like it's yeah.
right. It's like, oh, he doesn't tip. No, I don't tip. Why don't you tip? Like, and that's 20 minutes of the movie, and then just talking about not tipping, and it's hilarious. It's really good, and it's same thing. When you jump to Pulp Fiction, just Travolta and Uma Thurman's dialogue sitting at the dinner table, and their milkshakes, and
I was gonna say
just
$5 milkshake. I got to taste what a
yeah,
$5 milkshake. Yeah.
I gotta taste what a $5 milkshake tastes like. But yeah, I mean, and then I mean, even even in Pulp Fiction, where Travolta's talking to the drug dealer, like he's going to buy his heroin, and he's like, "Man, I just got back, and motherfucker, keep my car. I've had it out of
Yeah.
I've had it out of storage for like a week, and motherfucker, keep my car." And then
You
just
you know what they call a quarter pounder in France? They don't have the metric system.
exactly.
Royale with cheese. We don't have the metric system in Australia, and it's a quarter pounder. But I did go somewhere where they spoke French, and they did call it Royale with cheese. So I was very impressed. I was like, he did his
Yeah,
research, or either that, or McDonald's were like, "What a great idea! Let's change it." So
I mean that's hilarious. And then I mean, just them walking up to the apartment
mm.
to go at the guys and talking about the foot massage.
I was waiting for that as well. The foot massage, the awakening. I think that's the awakening of Quentin Tarantino's obsession with feet. That conversation, he was like, "I'm gonna get foot massages into these movies."
And he's like, giving a foot massage and then sticking your tongue in
Yeah.
in the holy of holies. It ain't the same fucking thing, same fucking ballpark. He's like, you give your mother foot massage? He's like, fuck you.
It's true. Like even like I think like the most, and it all comes down to the dialogue, is the most intense scene he's written is that scene in the basement in Glorious Bastards where they're playing the game with the card game.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like that's such basic dialogue. I had a son born. His name is Max, and they're all like playing the game like King Kong and stuff like that. That should be so friendly and like kind of boring and not interesting at all. But because the tension is built so much, it's the most intense scene in any of his movies. It's so full on. Uh, and
It
I
is.
love
It's
one thing I quote all the time to a buddy of mine who's been on the show before. It's a Michael Fassbender line of dialogue where he's just like, "Well, if I'm going out, I hope you don't mind. I finish in the Kings." Like, just
yeah.
it's got that very like curt British accent. It's so good.
Yes. It's perfect. And that's one of the things that's one of the things with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that kind of threw me off. Which again, I mean, I do like Once Upon a Time. It's not my favorite by
Mm,
far, but the lack of dialogue in Once Upon a Time, I think, is what
yeah,
threw me off.
I think that,
Because
and for me,
it's
I'm
almost
sorry.
like a silent film.
Yeah, I agree. There's a very little dialogue, which is unusual for Tarantino, and also it seemed to have a distinct lack of purpose. Um, and that's fine. Like it's okay. Like to do like films don't have to have purpose, but Tarantino uniquely has a very clear purpose with all of his films. Like you know,
Yeah,
like, even Pulp Fiction, which people could say, well, it's just kind of a bunch of conversations, but it's meant to be a reflection of like 70s cinema and those pulp novels and things like that. Kill
yeah,
Bill is an homage to samurai films, but then also to kung fu and to westerns. Like every film has a very distinct purpose. Hateful Eight is clearly Reservoir Dogs set in the 1800s. Like they've all got their own purpose. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm like, I thought it was going to be about the Manson family. That's the kind of way that it was sold to me. So I kept waiting for that stuff to happen. And yeah, it kind of happens, but never really does go anywhere. So again, it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's wonderfully shot, and the performances are great, and the soundtrack is funky. But it just seems like he didn't really have I just feel like the movie isn't saying anything, I guess, and that's kind of unusual for a Quentin Tarantino film.
yeah, exactly. And it was kind of sold to me, or I guess the marketing for it and everything. Like I was expecting the same thing. Was like I was expecting this Tarantino film about the Manson family, which is a very small part of it. It's not really a big kind of part of the movie. Um,
And maybe
so
that's our fault as an audience because we should have known that A, it's never going to be the thing you think it is, and B, it's probably going to be about movies. Like that's
right,
it.
right. So yeah, so it's probably our fault going in expecting something other than what it is. But it's still probably my least. Well, I'll say Jackie Brown's probably my least favorite. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I still enjoy the movie, but it just, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know what to think about it.
Look, in
Um,
a list of films by a great filmmaker, one of them has to go on the bottom. Like
right, exactly.
that's the way you got to look at it. Just because you don't like it as much as other, like it's still better than most films that other directors have made. So it's still a good film. It's just for him, it doesn't quite hit as high as some
Yeah,
of the other ones. Um, and I feel like Tarantino, because he's such an overachiever in my book. I know other people don't like him, and that's fine. To me, he's such a cinematic overachiever. I feel like he's really setting himself up for failure because it's like, well, after Kill Bill, what could he do? Oh, he did Death Proof, which was also great. Well, what can you do after that? Oh, he did Inglourious Basterds, which is maybe one of the best World War II films, fictionalized though it may be, of all time. Well, what can you do after that? Oh, he did Django. Well, it's not going to get better than Django. Oh, he did Hateful Eight. Like he keeps
yeah,
elevating, but he elevates, but then goes into a different direction. So he's never really competing with himself. He's always doing something a little bit different. And then Once Upon
yeah,
a Time in Hollywood, I think for the first time he didn't elevate. Like it's just like, oh, that's really cool, but like, well, you followed all these fantastic movies for the last 20 years. I guess at some point it was going to go like it's like the Marvel thing. People are like, when's Marvel going to trip up? And Phase 4, people were like, well, Marvel tripped up a lot. And I don't personally feel that way, but it's like, well, how do you follow Endgame? You can't follow Endgame because you put every single character in there and you tied it up
yeah,
masterfully. Like you're going to stumble. You're going to have to recalibrate. I think it's the same thing with Tarantino. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's not a bad movie. It's just look at the body of work. Like at some point,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, especially like after Django, which again I will still say is my favorite, and I think it's funny how much shit he got over Django.
mm,
I remember in interviews, so especially after Kill Bill, he had taken a lot of interviews, and these reporters and stuff were like, well, what's up with all this hyper violence, or what do you think that says about the film industry, or do you think that you're putting out a good uh look to moviegoers or kids or whatever?
mm,
And Tarantino was just like, dude, I don't give a shit.
yeah,
Like, I'm making my movie, and I'm making what I want to make. And one of the things that I love about him is that he's so unapologetic,
yeah,
that he's just like, dude, listen, I made what I wanted to make, and if you don't like it, or you think it's too violent, or you think that it's too violent for kids or whatever, he's like, first of all, you should be taking your kids to it, and
mm,
second of all, if you don't like it, don't watch it.
yeah,
And
absolutely. I remember there was a point. There's a really good interview with a British journalist where it was, I think, on the tail end of all this sort of stuff, where he asked about the violence, and Quentin Tarantino was like, "No, I'm not talking about it again. I'm shutting you down. Like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I've said everything I
yes,
have to say about it." And the thing that is, like, it's funny, like, because I never thought about it that way. That like I never think about Tarantino as a violent filmmaker or a filmmaker who makes violent films. Like, yes, they are, but because I'm a horror movie fan and I've been a fan of films from different genres and different eras, I'm very aware that violence has always been in cinema long before Quentin Tarantino made movies, and there will be long afterwards. But I guess, like in terms of the mainstream, I guess he's one of the few directors who's had such success on making violent films. Like, I just don't think like more people have more people have seen a Tarantino film than some of those nasty films we're talking about before. It just hits on a wider audience, and maybe that's why he's come under so much fire. But um, I think
well,
at
but
least we're going, yeah,
I'm saying kind of like at the time, you had already had like Hostel and like Saw, and then you want to talk about Kill Bill, like
yeah,
what are you talking about? And the other thing, which when I talk about Tarantino, I always say hyper violent, and I like that term because the violence is so over the top that it makes me laugh. I think it's
yeah,
funny. Like,
yeah.
especially,
I have
go
that
ahead.
as well. I have that as well. Like it used to annoy my wife when we were dating. Like we'd go see something violent, and I would laugh, and she's like, "People are gonna think you're a maniac." And I was like, "I am a maniac. It's fine." Like, but it's just so stylized and hyper. Like, yeah, like you go like, oh, like you celebrate it because it's like it's not like watching like an autopsy video or like a surgery where someone's being pulled apart and they're like that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're laughing at. We're like someone like got kicked and a bone snapped through their leg and we weren't expecting it. Like it's so ridiculous and over the top. Like Kill Bill, he literally had fountains of blood, in the limbs.
Yeah,
Like that's not how it works. That's why it's amusing because it's not realistic. Like it's so
yeah.
silly.
Especially Volume One.
Yeah.
Somebody getting their arm chopped off and like literally spraying blood
Mm.
across the across the room like a freaking water hose. Like, yeah, that's not how this works. That's not how any of the shit works.
And I think like, if you're going
But
to
it's
come after
hilarious.
violence in cinema, and people will always come after it because they always come after what they don't, what they deem too wrong, and everyone has their own opinions, and that's fine. Like if you don't like violent movies, that's fine. You don't have to. But I think if there's always going to be violence in cinema, at least Quentin Tarantino goes out of his way to make movies that are stylistically interesting and there's like a love in the craft and the stories are well considered. Like you could just watch any B horror film and get the same, kind of violence and with none of that. But like Tarantino like actually goes out of his way to like tell a compelling story and make, great characters and stuff. So I feel like if anyone's going to do violence in cinema, like go with him because at least he's making an effort. Like there's a lot more to it than just violence.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to the point, like he kind of knows where to draw back and when to push hard. So, like with Django, for example, the scene, which is still a tough scene to watch, but like we mentioned earlier, like the guy getting torn apart by the dogs, but
Yeah.
he doesn't show that he doesn't show that like shot for shot. He doesn't show the dogs like literally like pulling the guy apart. I mean, of course you can tell what's happening, but he kind of pulls back from that. But then when it's time for Django to come in and get his revenge and shoot every motherfucker in the house, yeah, he's blowing limbs off, and there is blood shooting across the room, and you know what I'm saying. So, like, I mean, he's very purposeful, and he knows what he's doing.
No,
And he
absolutely. And
knows.
look, that dog scene is probably worse because you don't see it, because you can just hear it and you've got your imagination. That's why it's so
Oh,
intense.
exactly.
But a lesser filmmaker would have shown it, and it probably would have looked either too horrifying or really poorly done. So it's definitely the right move. And also, you're meant to feel that way. Like, for people who miss the point of that movie, slavery is bad. So like, yeah, and the people who did it were horrible people. Like if you want to know what kind of monster Calvin Candy is, but I guess we're going to talk about Django now, which is good. Like
Yes.
that's the kind of man Calvin Candy is. Like, yeah, he's a charming guy when he's talking. He seems like he's really nice to all the people, but once he starts getting down to business, like he's a despicable human being, and that's why we heard dogs tear apart one of his slaves, because you're not meant to empathize with Calvin. He's not meant to be your hero, and if he is, you might have missed the point of the movie.
Right. Well, and I think that one of the things that I got I got upset about after Django came out, everybody was going after him about, being racist and,
Yeah,
you know, because of the KKK scene, which, dear God,
that's such a good scene. It's such a like.
still one of the funniest, like taking something that's horrible. Yes, it's horrible. The KKK is bad. Like they did terrible things, but like that scene about the bags and cutting the holes in the bags
So like,
and
my wife spent so
oh,
much time on these. Like,
yeah,
hey, we all know his wife worked really hard on these. All we're saying is next time, let's alter the design. Like, just
yeah, yeah. Maybe we just go no bags this time, and the next time full regalia. Like it's so good, and the conversation with Don Johnson and his house lady talking about, now go around and show Django all the pretty things, and she's like, "You want me to treat him like white folks?" He's like, "No, I didn't say that." Jerry, the kind of slow fellow that works down at the hardware store. Yes, sir. Treat him like Jerry. Just it's so funny. Like, and he's picking fun of it because it is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
the people's mindset and everything at the time, and then of course, they drop the N word like 50 million times in the movie and everything. But I'm like, did you guys not watch the movie? Did you not understand that the whole point of all this terrible shit happening is the fact that Django comes back and fucks them all up? Like,
that
that's the
was
whole.
that was such a weird thing. Like Spike Lee was very vocal as well. And look, I'm not going to go up against Spike Lee. Like Spike Lee knows what he's doing. He's been fighting for the cause, and he's been supporting African American art and the people forever in his work. And like Black Klansman is one of my favorite movies. It's so well done.
I still have not watched that. I need to.
Oh, it's really good. And interestingly, does a lot of things that Django does, where it makes a lot of fun of it. Like, it's so funny that he came out against Django Unchained so much. And I think mainly because the director was white. Because Black Klansman does a lot of the same stuff. You'll definitely see some similarities. Like, yes, they're horrible people, but there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor that makes the film entertaining. But yeah, he came out. I think Samuel L. Jackson kind of came out and defended Tarantino. Was like, look, it's a movie about slavery. That's kind of the point. The thing that surprised me was, like, why wasn't anyone picking this up in Pulp Fiction? Like, there is a 15-minute scene where Quentin Tarantino gives out racist dialogue, and there's is he meant to be a racist, or is he just using that word for the sake of it? Because I watched Pulp Fiction this year. I was like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. As a guy in his mid-30s, this makes me uncomfortable in a way it didn't when I was in my 20s. Like, that's like, at least Django, there's context, it kind of makes sense. Like, whether you agree with it or not is one thing, but at least in the frame of the story, like, oh yeah, well, they're racist. They're going to say that word. Like, and also, if you're telling a story about racism and you don't portray your racists as horrible people, I think you've underserved the story. Like, they need to be portrayed as horrible as possible if you're trying to get across the point that racism is bad. So, whereas, yeah, Pulp Fiction, I can't defend that. I'm like, I have no idea why he decided to do that. Like, it makes no sense.
Pulp Fiction, yeah. I mean, like, do you see a sign out front that says "dead in storage"?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, because it's not fucking there.
Yeah, that's a tougher one to defend, because like they weren't like, oh, we're gonna our mate Jimmy. By the way, he's a huge racist. Like, they don't say that in the film. They're just
Right.
yeah,
But again, it's just part of him kind of being unapologetic, and it is that this dirty, trashy. I mean, like, are you really pulling up to a guy's house with a dead dude in the back of your car? That's a good guy. Like, no,
yeah,
you're not.
yeah.
Like,
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. Just
you know
like
what
the
I'm saying?
bride, he's not actually a nice person. Um, I think Django, it's such a great flick. It's so enjoyable. I
It
think
is,
it's
and
the
it's as much as you hate Calvin Candy, like, DiCaprio playing that part, like, it's just amazing. Like,
he's really good in it.
and
Um,
how he did not get the Oscar that year, um, because he got the Oscar the following year for The Revenant, which I like The Revenant, but to me personally, his performance was way better in Django.
Yeah,
And
he's done, I
in
would say, a dozen performances better than the Revenant is great, but like, he also didn't get nominated for Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
I just rewatched Wolf of Wall Street. That flick is incredible. Like, um,
Well, and to be honest, in The Revenant, I thought Tom Hardy was better than he was. I thought
yeah,
Tom Hardy was fucking sick in The Revenant,
so good in
but
that movie. Yeah,
I think it just ended up like he had been nominated so many times that they were like, all right, we've got to give it
they're
to
like,
him
we
this year.
forgot, we made a mistake. Let's just quickly, let's get this done so people stop talking about it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
exactly.
One thing I love about Django, and it's evident in all his films, but I think it's the first time I really picked up on it, is how much interconnectivity there is between his films. Because Tarantino's even said himself, he's like, there are two universes in my films. There are the films which all my characters inhabit, and there are the films within the films that they all watch. So Kill Bill is a film
Yes.
that his characters would watch. Like, Death Proof is a film that his characters would watch. But then, like, well, actually, no, I don't know if Kill Bill was one, because King Schultz is meant to be like the great 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 grandfather of Paula Schultz, which is the grave that the bride is buried in.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And I also like the Broomhilda is the great 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 grandmother of Shaft, like from the movie Shaft.
Hmm.
That was a great
Yep.
little joke as well. Um, I love all that interconnectivity. I think that's really good. And I
Well, and
think,
and
go on, sorry.
and don't they? Doesn't he use the radio station that they listen to in Reservoir Dogs? I think he uses that same radio station in several movies.
Yes,
Like
and
if the radio's on, it's
Apple
that same
cigarettes
radio
is another
station.
one. Yeah, use the same
Yeah,
radio station. There's also, I think it's in Pulp Fiction. Is it Fox Force 5, the pilot that she did that never got picked up? Um,
correct.
yeah, but people were like, well, maybe like Kill Bill is what Fox Force 5 ended up becoming.
Five was
Yeah, it
right.
was the
Right.
Deadly Viper Assassination Squad became what Fox Force 5 was supposed to be. And guess what? She looks like Mia Wallace. Like, it's
Yeah.
just such great. I just love that attention to detail. Previously, I'd only seen it in Kevin Smith films, but like just those little in jokes just to keep it interesting for the filmmaker, I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, I do. It doesn't have quite the consistency, like you said, that the Kevin Smith or like kind of View Askew universe has. But it does have that kind of vibe to it, where it's just kind of like if you know the movies well, if you pay attention, like you kind of get the little underlying jokes that he writes in.
They just know what us nerds like. Like I've referenced it 3 times now, like Kevin Smith films, Tarantino films, and then like Uncle Machete is also Machete. Like clearly, I just want to see I just want to see all the dots connected. Like I'm the absolute definition of like the stereotypical film geek. Like just yes, show me as much continuity as possible. Thank you. Um,
Yeah. Well, and the thing, with Django too, especially kind of going back to them kind of like getting at him, like saying it's like racist or like whatever. Like Django's Django's character is like such a powerful character,
mm,
like especially towards the beginning when they're going to Candyland, when he pulls Walton Coggins off of that horse.
yeah.
He's like, "You gonna walk with me? You want me to hold your hand?" Like he's just a badass, man, and they allow him to be a badass, and just kind of picking, kind of seeing his development of when Schultz picks him up and then is educating him and showing him the business and everything. One of my favorite lines is like he's like do you see that target? And he's like, yeah. He's like, is that him? And he's like, yeah. He's like, are you positive? He's like, I don't know what positive mean. It's like, are you sure that it's him? And he's like, oh, well then, yeah, I'm positive. Like, it's just so like it's so well done, man. And people wanting to hate on that. I just don't fucking get it, man.
I also love one of my favorite moments in the film because it's like all of his films, there's a real sense of fun and humor in there. Like again, this is a story about racism. The other problem this film has, it came out around the same time as 12 Years a Slave, and obviously 12 Years a Slave was a very serious depiction of slavery. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one, but that is a tough movie to watch. Like it's very, very
Yes, it
uh,
is.
yeah. So having Django come out around the same time probably didn't do it any favors because it's like, oh, we've got two slavery films. One is taking the subject matter very seriously in a very kind of poignant way, and this one's an action movie, so I'm sure like that didn't help Tarantino either. But
Right.
there is a lot of humor in it, and I think one of the funniest moments in that film, it's just a visual gag, is where they're like, "All right, Django, pick out anything you want," and he comes out in that blue suit with like the
Oh,
ruffle and like he's got the stockings on.
well, and the the I think her name was Bettina at the first plantation they go to. She's like, "Oh, you get to pick out your own clothes," and he's like, "Yeah," and she's like,
And
"So
you
you
picked that?
choose to dress like that?" Just so good, man. It's so good, and it's very it's also kind of a little tip of the hat to like kind of like the 70s like pimp culture,
Mm,
pimps with the big old hats and the crazy colored suits and everything like that, like
mm.
just it's so funny.
Uh,
um And I was surprised after Django. Like I didn't think that I would like the next Tarantino movie so much, but man, Hateful Eight, it's a
Yes.
it's a beast of a movie, man.
I went into
Um,
Hateful Eight. I did as much. I remember, like, by the time I'd seen Django, like, I was already a Tarantino fan. Like, I'd been a fan for obviously Kill Bill. Coming out to almost 10 years earlier, I was a fan. But like, I was starting to get my head around the internet finally. I was really into film. I was looking up everything I could. When that first teaser came out, it wasn't even a trailer. It was an animated. I don't even remember the first teaser. It was just like a bunch of animated slides, and there was a wagon, and like every name got printed in blood. I was like, oh, I'm ready for this
yeah,
flick. I don't know what it is, but I'm ready. And again, Hateful Eight, not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a gangbusters, like big, bold spaghetti western, like Django, but like cranked up to 11. And instead, it's a very quiet movie set in one location. Again, like I said it before, and I said it to a lot of people. It's basically Reservoir Dogs in the 1800s. Like, it's one room in this big cabin. But it's so effective and it's so well done. And like, it's a 3 hour flick, especially if you watch the 70 mil super print. But I don't know what
right.
I would cut out of it. Like, everything is important. I went. Did you go to the roadshow? I know that he did like a roadshow version of the film where you could see it with the intermission and stuff. Did you get to see it that way, or did you see it in the regular theater?
No. I didn't get out to see it in the theater. I didn't get to watch it until I could get it at home.
Mm.
And well,
I guess your
and
kids
kind
would
of
have been
part of
quite young at that point, weren't they? Because your kids are 8 now, so they would have been what, like 2 when that came out.
yeah, I was gonna say. So the kids were really young, and I didn't get out to the theater, a lot of that time.
Yeah, I can relate. Yep.
Yeah. So I definitely knew like the runtime on it and everything, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get the time to go out and watch this in the theater. And half of the time, once, even if I could get a sitter or whatever, I was just so tired by the time I got the girls down
Mm.
or whatever. I was like, there's no way I'm sitting through a 3 hour movie. So
No, for sure. And that
waited
one is
till
slow and quiet, so you probably would have fallen asleep.
yeah, definitely. Um, but but no. So once I did get to see it, it was interesting, and I'm glad that you said that it was kind of Reservoir Dogs just set in a different time frame, because that's the absolute vibes. That the first time that I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that was just kind of Reservoir Dogs, and maybe just a little more brutal, different time setting. But so good,
Mm.
and again, very dialogue heavy, and that's what Tarantino's good at. He's really good at the dialogue. And I love Kurt Russell. I
Yeah.
thought he was freaking awesome. And oh, fun fact too. So were you aware the part where
Are you going to talk about the
the
guitar?
girls? Yes,
Yeah, I knew. As we said Kurt Russell, I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about the guitar. Yep. Okay. Yes.
smashes the guitar, and it's like this huge piece of history that. And old girl's reaction, Jennifer Jason Lee, her
Mm.
reaction as he smashes it is like her actual reaction, because
Because
she's
yeah, they
like,
hadn't
"Holy
swapped out the prop guitar.
shit!" Yeah, like so I mean I know because my grandfather has a 19 he's got a 1962 Martin guitar,
Mm.
which the last time I priced it was going for insane amounts of money, like close to like 20,000.
Wow.
Um, just for an original 62 Martin. So
Mm.
I can't even imagine what that guitar that he fucking smashed cost.
Oh yeah.
There's probably half of their film budget right there.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. I feel like this
but
film
yeah,
would have really appealed to you because yes, it's Kurt Russell, and I know you like Kurt Russell.
yeah,
It's set in the snow and it's isolated, very much like The Thing, and I know you like The Thing. So we got.
yes,
There's a lot of Thing stuff going on. We got isolation in the snow. We got Kurt Russell, and
yeah.
apparently some of the score was unused tracks from the original Thing. Um,
That I did not know. Okay.
So the score, like Ennio Morricone came in and did a new score, but apparently he used some unused samples from the original thing because it just didn't fit the vibe John Carpenter was going for, or whatever. So I believe, I could be wrong, but that's what I'd heard.
Wow, I'll have to check that out. No, that's cool. Because yeah, you're right. I've talked about, and I talk about at length how much I like the thing. So yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that. That's cool. But the cool thing about the Hateful Eight that I liked was, the first, two acts of the movie are, that very dialogue heavy, just kind of mystery kind of thing going on. And then, man, when that third act hits, though, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when it hits.
It is classic Tarantino relentless action. Like, although
Yes.
I do feel like because of Hateful Eight, that's why we got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because it's like, oh, I don't have to do any action for like 2 hours in a movie. I can just wait till the end, and then just have someone throw a can of dog food. We'll get to that. But I was like, no.
Right.
What I like about Hateful Eight as well is because previously his dialogue is fantastic. We talk about his dialogue a lot, but he relies on a lot on popular culture. And even in Django, whilst he wasn't really talking about popular culture, he was using popular music. Hateful Eight
Yeah.
proves he doesn't matter. Put him 300 years ago. There's no such thing as popular culture. It's all score. It still works. Like the dialogue still works. Like, and I don't know what thing he had to build
Absolutely.
up to, but like Hateful Eight proves that, hey, you can say he has all these crutches and he borrows from everything, but Hateful Eight kind of snubs its nose at
Kind
that
of blows that
theory.
out of the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will have to make a note. I love Walton Goggins, man.
He's so
Like
good.
in Django and in this, he's great, and he's so good as a comedic actor. But he's so good as like a serious actor too. Like, I mean, in Django and in this, like it's definitely not like a comedic role like whatsoever. He's just playing the fucking asshole. But man, like I don't know if you watched any of the HBO shows like
Vice
the Righteous
Principals?
Gemstones. Yeah, like Righteous Gemstones and like Vice Principals.
I've seen, I think, a
And
couple episodes of Vice Principals, and him opposite Danny McBride is pure magic.
he is
Like,
he is hilarious, man. He is so fucking funny. And if you haven't watched Righteous Gemstones, man, watch
it's
Righteous Gemstones.
on my list to check out. I really do want to check it out. I just haven't got to it yet. But no, yeah, Walton Goggins. Yeah, I probably became really aware of him because of Hateful Eight. I'd seen him in other things, but that was probably what put him on the map for me.
Yeah.
And now, whenever I see his name pop up, I'm like, well, I know that like this flick's going to at least have one good performance in it because he is consistently strong. Doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
genre is. You're absolutely right. He can go comedic, he can go serious. I don't know if he's done any horror, but I'd love to see him do something a bit darker and creepier. Because I feel like he could totally pull creepy really well. I think he could do a really good creep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, to my knowledge, or nothing stands out for me. I might be wrong. We could look it up, but
Was he in Westworld as well? Is that where I know him from?
Westworld?
Did he do Westworld? Maybe he didn't. Maybe I just thought he was in Westworld. He does a lot of westerns, so
No, I don't think he
no,
maybe
he
he
didn't.
was. No.
No, he did do Tomb Raider. That's where I know him from as well. He was the villain in Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say if he was in Westworld, it would have been season 1, but no, but yeah, his performances are consistently great. I almost like him more in a comedic role now than anything because he cracks me up. I think he's absolutely hilarious.
He has that great episode of Community. I don't know if you ever watched Community, but he's got one episode of Community where he does Chevy Chase's will, because Chevy Chase was a character on the first 4 seasons. His character dies. I don't know if have you seen that episode where he has to do the will reading?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. Like, and they did like a live reading of it during lockdown, but Pedro Pascal played the Walton Goggins character. But basically, just it results in him bequeathing like canisters of semen to all of his classmates. It's very funny.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go back and check that out.
But Walton Goggins, yeah, it doesn't matter what role he's in. The guy's genius.
Yeah, he is. He's great. Um, so yeah, so Hateful Eight, and then yeah, I mean, we make our way to. I mean, there wasn't a lot about Hateful Eight that I didn't like. I haven't watched it as many times, so Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The only reason that I haven't seen either one of them more than I have is just because of the runtime. It's just like you got to take a whole afternoon, like
The
to
runtime
watch them.
and they're so new as well. Like Inglourious Basterds, I think is about 2.5 hours, but it came out 15 years ago now. So like I've had time. I had time before kids, before marriage, before living. I have my own place where I could just watch movies all night. But as you get
Sure.
older and take on those responsibilities, it's harder. But one thing in Hateful Eight I really liked is the very brief Tarantino cameo. He does have an appearance in the film, but it's just in a voiceover, and he just lets you know that the coffee's been poisoned, which sets up the
Oh
entire
yeah,
third
yeah,
act.
yeah.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We haven't really. We'll jump back to a couple other things before we wrap up. But Once
Sure.
Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh my god, I can't even say words. Um, Very stylish flick. Like visually, there's a lot going on. Musically, there's a lot going on. We have talked about it a little bit. It's just in terms of the story, it's probably the one that affected me the least. Even though the performances are all good, you know.
Yeah, I think everyone's great, and I really love the scene with Brad Pitt and Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
Like
it,
that scene's really fun.
that's one he copped a lot. Did you just notice every time a film comes out, Tarantino cops it for something, and people were like, "What? Some white guy could beat Bruce Lee?" And it's like, no, probably not. But this is a fake movie, so it's okay if it happens.
Well, so I actually I listen to if there's a guest that I like that's going to be on Joe Rogan's podcast, I'll listen to it. So I'm not like an everyday listener, but if I just like browse past and I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, I've
it's
listened to the show before. I haven't listened to a lot lately, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like if Penn Jillette goes on, or if Kevin Smith goes on, or if someone I like goes on, like look, it's
yeah,
three
yeah,
hours.
then
It's
I'll definitely
3 hours
listen
of
to it.
someone I like talking. I'll take the hit so I can hear the person I like.
Right. So Tarantino did an episode. I think it was about a year ago.
Oh, interesting. I must
But
have missed that.
yeah, but Rogan was talking to him because, of course, Rogan's big MMA guy and martial arts and jujitsu and
Mm.
all that stuff. So he was talking to Tarantino about that scene because apparently a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is such bullshit," blah blah blah, and Tarantino goes off on this probably good 30 to 40 minute thing, talking about Bruce Lee and the fact that Bruce Lee, yes, he was a talented fighter, but he was more of a choreographer.
Mm.
And like he references some different matches that Bruce Lee had and all this stuff, and so he kind of like he's not like shitting all over Bruce Lee, but he's just saying like everybody's like, oh, he's this legend, he's untouchable, that kind of thing. And Tarantino's like, if you really look into it, he's not the god that everybody thinks he is.
Mm.
Now, was he still fantastic? Yes. Was he a great choreographer? Absolutely. But he talks about that scene in Hollywood, and he says, basically, Lee is kind of like this stylized fighter or choreographer, and then on the other hand, you got Brad Pitt that's actually been in combat and stabbed a guy in the neck.
Mm.
Like he's a brute.
Yeah,
So
it's a really good point actually. And Brad Pitt towers over him as well. Like he's like, I don't know what his workout
right.
routine was for this flick, but he's got that superhero diet going on. He's ripped in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. So he does just kind of defend that scene, or he talks about that scene, and he's just like, well, listen, there's one thing for a guy to be a great martial artist, but then there's another thing for this guy that's seen actual combat and stuck a knife in somebody's throat, and it's just a stone cold killer.
Mm.
So I just thought that kind of like that part of the conversation about that scene was really cool.
That's a really
But yeah,
fascinating point that, yeah, probably a lot of people didn't consider, myself included. I didn't even think about that. I was just like, well, Tarantino also killed Hitler in a movie. Like, he's going to make things up. But kind of
right.
knowing that backstory, it's actually a really fascinating point. It's like, yeah, I guess yeah, like I never saw Bruce Lee fight in real life. Like I've just seen the movies, and it's all movie magic anyway. And if you do have a guy who has, a questionable backstory, like that's the other thing. Like Pitt's character, not a nice guy. Maybe killed his wife. We don't know. Like if he's killed people
Right.
before, like he could definitely, mess up Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. A really interesting point. Um,
Yeah, go back. I mean that episode of Joe Rogan with Tarantino is great anyway. But yeah, go back and search for it. Like it's a really good episode all around. But that discussion in there is pretty cool.
Well, for the longest
And
time, he wasn't doing podcasts. He would do interviews when he was promoting stuff, but I remember like there was a significant lack of Quentin Tarantino podcasts. Like even Kevin Smith, who's friends with him, couldn't get him on his show.
right.
But I think now Tarantino has his own podcast. Like, so that's pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if I have much else to say about Hollywood. Like, I think I've said all I have to
Yeah,
say
I mean,
about that. Like,
I think Hollywood though. I think it was more of. And again, I need to watch it again. I've seen it twice, but I need to really watch it again. Um, which fun fact? Kevin Smith's daughter is
yeah,
in there.
she's in there. Yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
episode where he talks to her about how like she auditioned for the role and she didn't get it, and he was like, "Look, Quentin's a friend, but I'm not going to use my Hollywood power to get you a role. Like, if you're not right, you're not right." And she didn't get the role, and then like a month later, he called her and he's like, "Look, you didn't get the role, but actually we kind of do this new thing now. Do you want to come in and do this instead?" So she actually auditioned for a whole other role in the film, and then they kind of created that camp and added all these extra characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I listened to that. I think it was his Smodcast episode. I think I listened to that one as well, where Smith is talking about that.
Yeah, he makes a
Um,
great joke about how she tries harder for other directors, but for his film, she just dials it in. I thought that was pretty funny. So
but no, I mean Hollywood. I think, and again, like I was saying, I need to go back and watch it again. But I think it was more of walking into it because there was talk for a long time that this was going to be kind of like the last Tarantino movie, but he's kind of said since that he thinks he's got one more that he's going to do.
he's always said, I think
But
he's always said 10. I think he's always like, it's going to be 10. Look, I think 10's a good number to go out on. And he takes his time, like most. Like he doesn't do it. Like I think it's like once every kind of 3-4 years for him, whereas some directors kind of move a bit quicker. So like he's been around
right.
since the 90s, but it's been it's been 30 years and he's only done 9 movies. Like that's not a huge like strike rate in terms of releases. So.
Yeah. I mean, he takes his time.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so kind of like walking in from my perspective, and again, I was thinking that it was going to be the last one, so I'm like, okay, this is the magnum opus. This is going to be like his, like, just blow it out of the water. And I think he wanted more to kind of show off himself as a cinematographer or a filmmaker
I agree. Yeah.
rather than putting forward this like super compelling like storyline. I think he just wanted to have fun shooting something, to be honest. Like I think it was just like, I just want to shoot some shit and make it look cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a love letter to old Hollywood. Like there's no doubt about that. Like you look at the Western sets, you look at the Hollywood strip and stuff like that. Like it's definitely him being like, this is, let me immortalize what it looked like, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago at this point. Jeez. So there's definitely that. And I agree with you. Definitely, you can't question the visuals of that film. Like visually, it is stunning. Maybe one of his best looking flicks. I would probably give Hateful Eight the edge there. Hateful Eight's a beautiful looking movie.
Yes, it is.
And then his last one, apparently number 10, is The Critic. That's what's coming next, which I guess is about. I'm guessing is about a film critic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think they talked to Paul Walter Hauser. Apparently, he's maybe going to be the lead. So I don't know. He was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. Look, I'll go check it out. So apparently he's not doing that Star Trek film anymore. He was attached to a Star Trek film for a while. Sounds like we're not going to get Kill Bill 3, which is fine.
Yeah,
Like,
he was talking about that, and actually on that Joe Rogan podcast, he actually talks about it. Or he's like, well, I'm kind of kicking this around. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I just thought it would be kind of cool if the Beatrix came back with her daughter, and you know, have some people coming after them or whatever. He was like,
Mm.
I was kind of kicking around that idea, and I was
Well,
like, oh,
he set it up in the first 10 minutes of the first film, like Vanita Green's daughter needs her revenge. Like, there's your story. Like,
yeah, exactly, yeah. I'll be waiting.
yeah, we're all waiting. All right, well, before we wrap things up, I just want to jump back to a couple of Tarantino flicks that we didn't talk about because they're not specifically his films alone. Where do you stand on things like Natural Born Killers and True Romance, flicks that he wrote but didn't? Oh, and Killing Zoe actually is another one of his as well that he wrote but didn't direct.
So I'm probably going to be crucified for this.
Go for it. Go for it. No, that's what we do with the show. We give out unpopular opinions.
But True Romance, I've never seen.
Okay,
Um,
it's really good. I really enjoy it. I think of the ones he hasn't directed but he did write, I think it's my favorite. I really like True Romance.
that's what I've heard, and at the time it was pretty highly critically acclaimed, right?
Yeah. It's and I haven't seen a lot of Christian Slater's work, but what I have seen, I would say it's his best. I really like him in True Romance.
um, yeah, so I've never seen True Romance. Now, Natural Born Killers, I do really enjoy.
Mm.
I like Natural Born Killers. The way that it's shot and all of the like psychedelic color choices and just the overall like kind of craziness of the movie is really cool to me. I know a lot of people kind of don't appreciate that. I, however, think with the story that's being told and all of the craziness that is happening, I think the way that it's shot lends itself very well
Mm.
to the overall story. And I am a big Juliette Lewis fan.
Yeah, she's great.
I think she's well, and Woody Harrelson too. I love Woody Harrelson,
Mm.
and I think I think both of them did great in that movie, and probably some of their better performances, other than Woody Harrelson in True Detective, is pretty fucking brilliant. I don't know if you've seen True Detective,
I've
but
seen, I think, half of the first season, and it wasn't because I didn't like it. I'm terrible at completing shows. I'm really bad at finishing TV shows, but I really did dig it. Yeah, Woody Harrelson's an
the
interesting one
first.
because I always think of him as someone who, like, because he's kind of known as just like this like big stoner and like not too serious. I don't always take him seriously as an actor, and then he'll just surprise me. I'm like, oh my god, like War for the Planet of the Apes, chilling performance. Like, he is treating that like an
Yes.
absolute war movie. Like, he's taking it so seriously. So every now and then, like, I'll think about like the silly things, and then I'll go back and you know see him do something really good. So yeah, he's great in it. She's good at that intro where they're in the diner and she starts beating the guys up. Like, he's such a tone setter for that film.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's if if you get a chance, go back to True Detective. It's
Yeah, I
really
will.
good, and I would say just watch season one and stop.
Sure, that's what I've heard. I've heard.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard the longer it goes on, the less you need it. So
three was better than two, but anyways, but yeah, so yeah, I really like Natural Born Killers a lot,
nice.
and it's again, it's kind of a tough watch, not in a bad way.
I was gonna say, I
Like,
think it's his most disturbing film. Like, he hasn't directed it, but the content in that, like the whole like abusive family shot as a sitcom. Like, and I know that might not have been the script. That might have been changed by Oliver Stone. But there's some really dark stuff in that flick. Like, I would say far darker than Kill Bill. The one that copped so much
yeah, so
criticism.
yeah, so when I say like hard to watch, not like visually or anything like that, I think it's shot beautifully, and I think everything lends itself to the movie very well. But yeah, like you said, it's just very dark content, so
Mm,
it's kind of a difficult watch. But what a great movie! It's a
mm.
great movie. And speaking of Juliette Lewis, man, her and we talked about Dust Till Dawn briefly, but
There's a
some
very
of her.
questionable moment in that film between Quentin Tarantino and Juliette Lewis.
Richie, would you do me a favor and eat my pussy for me?
That thing you said before. Do you still want me to do? Because I don't know how
I'd be
old
more than happy to do that for you.
Juliette Lewis must have been like in her 20s, but she's a very young looking. Like I can't remember. I'm trying to think of a movie I saw in where I thought she was under, like she was a teenager, but she was actually, she was a teenager, but she was like 19 years old. But she looks about 15. Like she has a very young face. In those
Yeah.
early works, it's very tough.
And if
It was Cape Fear I watched because she's in Cape Fear, and she was like 21, but she's playing a 15-year-old, and like Robert De Niro is trying to hook up with her, and I buy that she's a 15-year-old. Like she looks like she's 15. Yeah,
what a great
she's
movie as well.
another great film. Always putting herself in precarious situations, Juliette Lewis, in those movies is like, oof.
Well, and more recently, if you've not seen the show Yellow Jackets,
I keep hearing how wonderful it is, but I haven't seen it. No,
it is fantastic, and she is, well, pretty much everybody in the show is great, but especially her and Christina Ricci
I
are
love Christina Ricci as
just
well.
amazing. Yeah, and she's
Black Snake
so
Moans,
good.
Christina Ricci.
Oh yeah.
I could have gone with Casper. I could have gone with anything, but I went with Black Snake Moan. With Quentin Tarantino.
Are you a Family Guy watcher at all?
I haven't watched in probably about a decade. I used to be really big on it, and then I didn't stop enjoying it. I just kind of moved away from it. I haven't gone back, but I'll periodically see clips online. I'm like, man, I need to go back and watch Family Guy. So I can probably go up to like season 10 pretty strong, and then after that, not so much.
In the Star Wars episodes, I think it's I don't know if it's the second or the third one that they made, but the whole gist is the power goes out, and so Peter starts telling the story of Star Wars. But it's
yes,
in like the second. This is the second one the power goes out, and they're like, "Dad, tell us another movie. Tell us another story." And he's like, "Well, once upon a time, there was Samuel L. Jackson, and Christina was all chained up for some reason that we don't know, and it's called Black Snake Moan."
Yeah. Oh man, that's so funny.
Always cracks me up.
That's so funny. We talked about Four Rooms before we started recording.
Yeah. We kind of skipped Four Rooms.
I only watched it for the first time this year. It finally got a physical release in Australia. I think the last time it came out in Australia, it was on VHS. Wow. So we haven't had a physical release in a good 30 years. What a fun flick! Like, what if
it is. Well, and it's Tarantino, and then Rodriguez, because there's 4 different directors.
I can't remember who the other
Guy
2
Ritchie
are.
does one.
No, it's not Guy Ritchie. I've got it over here. Hang on, I'll get it off my wall of movies. And why don't I have it in the Tarantino section? Probably because there are a few directors attached. Alison Anders and Alexandra Rockwell. So I don't know either of them. Or any of their work beyond that. Yeah.
Tarantino's Room is the final one with Bruce Willis, correct?
Yeah, with the cutting off the finger thing.
yeah. Which is awesome.
Tarantino does actually a really stretched performance. He really pushes himself and plays an independent filmmaker who's made a successful movie.
Yeah, and then Rodriguez does the Room with Antonio Banderas, which is really funny.
And there's like a corpse in the bed. And then I don't know
who.
And then there's one where like there's a witch coven and they have to sleep with a guy to get like restorative powers.
Right.
And then probably my least favorite one is the one where there's the hostage game where like it's a couple and they do this kind of kinky sex game where they take someone hostage and because they think that she's having an affair, but it's all just set up. It's not really real. That's where my least favorite one just went on a bit much, but they're all pretty good.
No, but it's a great movie and it's a cool little mishmash of different directors and different stories. And I absolutely love Tim Roth in this movie.
Yes, he's so good. Like Tim Roth is one of those actors that I often forget about, and every time he shows up, I'm so pleased to see him. Like he's so good in Hateful Eight. Like I always forget he's in there, but he's got that very like kind of charming old world British, like, oh hello, yes, my name. Like very like it's not Cockney, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's very like stereotypical British. Even in like The Incredible Hulk, he's great. Like every time he shows up, that guy is great.
Yeah, he is. I mean, going back to the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
He
of
played
course.
General Spade. He's great in that. But this his role in Four Rooms is just absolutely hilarious. It almost reminds me of kind of like a Mr. Bean kind of character
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Like he's just kind of in a lot. He's just got a lot of like kind of quirky, weird movements, and then just sometimes he's left speechless and just will just kind of mumble and fix his hat and
And then
move
just and
along.
just stumbles into the worst possible scenario possible. It should be a very easy thing. He's the night watchman. He just looks after the hotel at night. He should be like bringing room service up and just keeps getting caught into different like really terrible situations. Like in the
Yeah,
opening scene, like his boss or like his predecessors is like, just do one thing: don't sleep with any of the guests. In the first story, he already breaks that rule. Like
yeah,
it's just
exactly.
yeah, it's a real treasure of a flick. Like, and I think most people probably haven't even heard of it. Like, if you talk about Quentin Tarantino, no one's referencing Four Rooms, and I'd known about it for so long, but I only finally got my hands on it this year. But it's a real hidden gem. Like, it's definitely worth people's time.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a really funny movie. Obviously, Rodriguez and Tarantino, like their kind of segments are definitely the most entertaining and the most fun. But yeah, it's great, and especially yeah, like because Tarantino his segments kind of like the last one, and I mean it's beautiful. It's and again, Bruce Willis is great, and just Tim Roth's performance, and especially at the end, I kind of don't want to give it away for people that haven't seen it, but the way that Tim Roth just kind of walks off at the end,
Yeah.
he's got a he's got a terrible task to take care of, but he just
Mm.
kind of walks off like it's nothing, and it's hilarious. And yeah, again, love Tim Roth, and yeah, that little segment from Tarantino is definitely, even if you only watch that part, it's worth that.
Well, the one thing about that Tarantino segment I noticed that is so unique. First of all, it's definitely the longest of the four segments. But unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's all done in one take. It's one long shot. The camera never cuts.
Yes, I do believe it is. I think you're right
Yeah,
about that,
which is like
and that's tough.
even for a short film, it's like a 20-minute segment. Like they would have had to rehearse that again and again and again and again, or maybe they improv. Like maybe like Quentin Tarantino did the Kevin Smith thing, where it's like, I'm the writer, so if I get it wrong, it's just a new draft. Like I don't know, but it's pretty well held together, and it has a very physical gag at the end of the short. Like as I mentioned, someone gets their finger cut off. Like that's
Yeah,
like that
and
has to be timed perfectly. So.
yeah, talking about those long shots like that. I mean, just in recent, I don't know if you've seen Life with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds. Uh,
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. Yeah, when it first came out. I haven't seen it since. But I remember really enjoying it. I remember I've been like, oh, it's kind of like Alien, and it's a bit like Venom a
yeah,
little bit. But
basically, yeah, it's
yeah,
just kind of a newer kind of alien.
mm.
Yeah, I don't want to call it a ripoff, but kind of sort of is.
It was
But
very
still
heavily
enjoyable.
inspired by Ridley Scott's Alien.
Yes. But no, they talk about. I remember watching some like behind the scenes on it, and they're talking about like the first like 10 minutes, I think, of the movie where they're kind of like going through the space station or whatever. It's kind of this one long shot. Now, of course, it's a lot more technical because they got people in zero G and all this other kind of shit going on. But the amount of times that they talked about how many times they had to do that and how many times they had to reverse or
Mm.
rehearse to do this 10 minute long shot. uh, you know I mean a whole 20 to 30 minute segment of just one long shot. Like I couldn't even imagine the skill and practice that went into it.
I love that sort of thing. I know it's a detail that the general audience doesn't really look for, And when they do hear about like, oh, why would you do that? Just cut it. Like, but I don't know what I don't know why I like it. I think because I'm such a fan of performance, I'm really impressed by people who can, remember lines and do stage plays and stuff like that. My wife's an actress; she does stage from time to time, so I'm always very impressed by that. So to see it done in a film, I'm like, yeah, like that's cool that you
Well,
kind of,
even
yeah. I don't know. I'm very impressed by it.
yeah, I mean, even kind of newer. I don't know if you've seen John Wick 4 yet,
No,
but
I
there's
haven't. I
this.
really wanted though.
You need to say towards getting toward the it's a 20-minute over of just like straight crazy action going on, and it never cuts away lines. And I think what choreography, everything is so impressive.
Oh, I'm losing you, Jason.
But
Sorry, mate.
watching
I'm losing you for a second. It's cutting out. I'm just going to fill the dead air with some dialogue while Jason gets his computer organized. Oh, not his computer, his phone organized.
you're starting to break a little bit.
We just had a couple of tech glitches there. That's the the downside of recording from opposite sides of the world. But it was the first time it happened all day, so we're all good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm surprised for as long as we've been going that that's the first time it happened. But but no, I was just saying there's this really crazy like overhead like one long shot in John Wick 4 where there's all this technical like choreography and fight scenes and you know uh, gunfire and like all this shit going on, and it's like probably 20 minutes long, and I'm just so impressed like how they could do that. So I have a lot of respect for people that can pull that kind of shit off.
I always think back to the hallway fight scene in Daredevil. I know it's become a bit of a staple and a reference in popular culture now, but
But
just
yes,
like, and then like every season, like, well, we did it once, we have to up the ante. So like, then they do the prison breakout with Punisher in season 2,
yeah.
and then even in She-Hulk, there was a replicated version. There's a hallway fight for Daredevil as well. Like, I just love that sort of stuff.
Well, I think this second season of Daredevil is when the bikers are coming after him and they're going down the stairwell, right?
Yes, and he's got the chain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that shit is badass.
um, well, I think that pretty much. I think we've said everything we want to say about Tarantino. It's been going for about 2 hours, which is no mean feat. Um, I was going to put the pressure on you and get you to give me your top 5 Tarantino films, but I won't be that cruel. Do you have any final thoughts on the man, on QT himself?
I'll say, well, so I'll say easily, I can easily say my favorite Tarantino is Django. Um, so that's kind of easy for me.
Yeah, nice one.
But yeah, just I mean, all around, man. Like there's really not anything bad that I can say about any of his projects. There are some that may be a little more interesting or a little more entertaining than others, but none of them that I dislike at all. And
Yeah,
I,
for
I
sure.
just think the dude, whether he's writing, directing, whatever he's doing, he's got a vision for what he's doing, and he knows what he's doing, and everything is very intentional, and that's why I like him so much, because there's a thought put into every single second that's on that film. I mean, he has thought about everything that he could possibly think about, and if it's in there, it's got a purpose,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and that's what I really like about him. So
And you used a phrase before, and I'm gonna piggyback on that. He's unapologetic, and not just in his like defense for his work, but just his approach to his work. Like there is like you never feel like his work has been censored. You never feel like he's kind of you were talking about like kind of easing up on the reins, but it's never to kind of like, oh, I don't want to get in trouble, or I don't want to make something too violent. It's kind of like it's always creatively driven. And he's a very unapologetic filmmaker. He just makes the story he wants to make, and does it his way. Which is, I feel like it's becoming rarer and rarer. As these studios get bigger and pump out like these, mega blockbusters every year. So it's nice to see that kind of independent voice still there.
Yeah, I mean, the only other like kind of filmmaker that I can really reference like kind of recently that I feel like has kind of the same vibe to him is Christopher Nolan. I'm a
Mm,
big Christopher Nolan fan, and I feel like whatever you want to say about any of his movies, whether you like them or you don't like them, whatever, he's very intentional on
yes,
everything that he's doing, and I do think because the first I was going to kind of mention earlier, Tarantino was kind of the first filmmaker that I had really experienced like doing things out of chronological order as far as the story goes,
for sure.
like kind of starting from the end or maybe working back or kind of jumping around and like leaving it to you to put the pieces together which happened first or whatever. So that I think Tarantino was the first filmmaker that I had seen do that, and Nolan is a big fan of doing that kind of thing too.
Mm.
Just kind of like not it doesn't have to be start to finish like this is how the film goes, like let's jump around and you put it together and you figure it out.
It's
So
it's funny you bring up Nolan because the next episode of the director series we're doing on the show is going to be Christopher Nolan. I've actually got that booked in, I think,
wonderful.
to record next week. So we're going to be talking about his work, me and a couple of buddies. So, but you kicked open the gates. You did
Wonderful.
the
I'll
absolute first
definitely
one.
be listening to that one.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and Kev. But as I said, I've never really had the one-on-one time with you, so it's nice to spend some time just you and I kind of talking about movies. And as you said, finally, nothing horror, which is a bit of a change as well. Um, before we get out of here, tell them where they can find you. What's the podcast you do? Where can they find it? Why should they listen?
Oh, well, it's called the Midnight Terrors Podcast, and you can find us pretty much anywhere that you stream. So, Apple Music, Spotify, you name it, you got it. We're pretty much everywhere. And then you can always email us at the Midnight Terrors Podcast at Gmail. And yeah, you can also search our socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we actually just started our Midnight Terrors group on Facebook where we have a lot of cool discussions with everybody. So that's a lot of fun.
I've
And
definitely
that's
taken
relatively.
advantage of that audience and shamelessly plugged my show many times. Uh, but I only
You
did
are
I,
more than
I only
welcome
I
to.
only did Midnight Terror themed episodes. I didn't plug the other stuff. Uh, as I
You plug
say,
away, buddy. We
every
love you,
time
so you do.
every time I cross paths with the boys, I always plug it. Go check out their show. It's legitimately wonderful. Kevin, Jason do a great job, and clearly love their movies. As you've heard for the last 2 hours, Jason, I've had a great time talking about Tarantino. So go follow their show, give them a like and a listen because it will be worth your time. It's a brilliant show. I love your show. Um, if you want to support me and my show, guys, jump onto Instagram. I was a teenage film snob, underscores between every single word. If you really want to support me, go buy a shirt. I don't make any money off them, but they're pretty cheap. I think they're like $20 and you get 20% off. Just head to tpublic.com, search for I was a teenage film snob, or jump in my links and find it there. And that is pretty much going to do it. As I mentioned, there's a Nolan episode coming out pretty soon, so you can look forward to that. Kev and Jason will be on the show again soon for Halloween, hopefully. But until then, I want to thank Jason once again for being a part of the show. Thank you all for listening. Go give us a like, a subscribe, a thumbs up, a review. We've had no reviews still. Give us a review, 1 star, 5 star, I don't care. And as I say every single week on this show, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I promise you, I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.